You might have heard of Elon Musk's mission to colonize Mars and his company SpaceX that is working on it. But did you ever want to know the story of SpaceX and Musk's struggle for it? Whether you were curious or not, you are going to love their story after watching this video. So stay tuned with us to know what is the history of SpaceX and all those endeavors that ultimately made this company successful.
The odds of me coming into the rocket business, not knowing anything about rockets, not having ever built anything, I would have to be insane if I thought the odds were in my favor.
SpaceX is an American aerospace manufacturer and space transport services company founded by one of the richest people in the world, Elon Musk, in 2022, that helped usher in the era of commercial spaceflight. SpaceX is also known as the first private company to successfully launch and return a spacecraft from Earth orbit, and the first to launch a crewed spacecraft and dock it with the International Space Station. The company was formed by Elon Musk in the hopes of revolutionizing the aerospace industry and making affordable spaceflight a reality. It all began in the early 21st century when Elon Musk and a couple of his friends traveled to Russia to purchase some intercontinental ballistic missiles.
I went to Russia to look at buying a refurbished ICBM, which is a very trippy experience. It was very bizarre. And when I tell people that, they're like, what?
The billionaire had not been on the lookout to kickstart a rocket business at that time. In fact, he had wished to spend his fortune on purchasing a Russian rocket at a cheap price and use it for delivering some plants or mice to Mars while ensuring their safe return. Somewhat fortunately, the meeting proved to be unsuccessful, leading to Musk reaching the conclusion that he could prepare the rockets himself, which ended up laying a foundation for SpaceX a few months later. At that point, Musk's only aim was to develop a rocket being both low-cost and reusable, and which held the capacity of being able to undertake multiple trips.
We had a bunch of those kind of brainstorming sessions, and I couldn't see any fundamental obstacle to improving the cost of rockets, so that's when I started SpaceX.
For accomplishing this purpose, the entrepreneur recruited the rocket designer Tom Mueller, with whom the platform invested 2 years in setting up a new rocket. A part of this struggle should also be contributed to the CEO, Elon Musk, who invested $100 million from his own personal funds. Musk's company entered the arena with the first privately funded, liquid-fueled rocket, Falcon 1, to reach orbit in 2008. This rocket was vastly cheaper to build and operate than its competitors, such as Lockheed Martin and Boeing. Company's first Falcon 1 launch in 2006 began successfully, but ended prematurely because of a fuel leak and fire. But the company had already earned millions of dollars in launching orders by this time. 2 years later, SpaceX became the first privately owned company to send a liquid-fueled rocket into orbit. 3 months later, it won a NASA contract for servicing the International Space Station that was worth more than $1 billion. Although the initial years of the company were grim, with it being on the verge of fizzling out, as per Musk, yet the platform went on to make history with various achievements, including launching Falcon 9 and recovering a spacecraft, Dragon. Later on, in 2010, SpaceX first launched a bigger craft, Falcon 9, so named for its use of 9 engines. The following year, it broke ground on a launch site for the Falcon Heavy, a craft the company hoped would be the first to break the $1,000 per pound to orbit cost barrier, and that might one day be used to transport astronauts into deep space. The same year, Musk's company reached another milestone, becoming the first commercial company to release a spacecraft, the Dragon capsule, into orbit and successfully return it to its homeland. This made SpaceX the talk of the town. 2 years later, in 2012, the company became the first private firm to send a cargo ship to the International Space Station, or ISS. On December 21, 2015, after traveling to space, a Falcon 9 first stage successfully returned to Earth near its launch site, making this another first milestone for the company. Beginning in 2016, SpaceX also began using drone ships for rocket stage landings, and a rocket stage that had returned to Earth was successfully reused in a 2017 launch. The Falcon Heavy rocket had its first test flight in 2018. 2 of the 3 first stages landed successfully, while the third hit the water near the drone ship. Interestingly, the Falcon rocket did not carry a satellite, but instead placed into orbit around the Sun a Tesla Roadster, with a mannequin in a spacesuit buckled into the driver's seat. Next year, on May 23, 2019, the company successfully deployed the first 60 of around 12,000 satellites in its planned Starlink, a large satellite internet constellation, which it aims to use to provide low-latency network communications in low Earth orbit. About 50 Starlink satellites are launched at a time on a Falcon 9 flight. More than 4,400 satellites are planned for the first generation of Starlink, and an additional 7,500 satellites are also planned. As of 2022 reports, more than 4,800 operational satellites orbited Earth, and more than 2,200 of them are part of SpaceX's Starlink. On May 30, 2020, SpaceX launched its first crewed mission, in which a test flight termed Demo 2 sent NASA astronauts Bob Behnken and Doug Hurley to the International Space Station, marking the first crewed launch from American soil in 9 years. This was followed by the lucrative launch of a crew of 4 astronauts to the ISS on November 15, 2020, making the platform the sole commercial spaceflight firm in the world which has the capacity for delivering astronauts to space as of early 2021. After 4 failed test flights, SpaceX launched its futuristic Starship that successfully landed on May 5, 2021, at last accomplishing a test flight of the rocket ship that Musk intends to use to land astronauts on the Moon and send people to the new homeland, Mars. The Super Heavy first stage would be capable of lifting 100,000 or 220,000 pounds to low Earth orbit. The company planned to use the Starship for a flight around the Moon, carrying Japanese businessman Misawa Yusaku and several artists in 2023, for flights to land astronauts on the Moon as part of NASA's Artemis program, and eventually to launch settlers to Mars. On 13 December 2021, the once richest person in the world, Elon Musk, announced that the company was starting a carbon dioxide removal program that would convert captured carbon into rocket fuel, after he announced a $100 million donation to the X Prize Foundation to provide the monetary rewards to winners in a contest to develop the best carbon capture technology. In August 2022, a news agency, Reuters, reported that the European Space Agency began initial discussions with SpaceX that could lead to the company's launchers being used temporarily, given that Russia blocked access to Soyuz rockets amid the Russian invasion of Ukraine. A few months later, in December 2022, the United States Federal Communications Commission granted approval to launch up to 7,500 of the company's next-generation satellites in its Starlink internet network. The same year, SpaceX's Falcon 9 became the world record holder for the most launches of a single vehicle type in a single year. The company launched a rocket approximately every 6 days in 2022, with 61 launches in total. Recent reports suggest that SpaceX plans to beat NASA in launching the biggest rocket ever. In the early morning hours of November 16, 2022, NASA's Space Launch System Moon rocket officially became the most powerful rocket ever flown when it lifted off, putting out a prodigious 4 million kilograms of thrust that comfortably beat the old record holder, the Apollo era's Saturn V, with its 3.4 million kilograms of thrust. A few weeks later, SpaceX reported that it successfully test-fired 11 of the 33 engines on its Probding-Najin Super Heavy rocket, a beast of a machine that, when all of its engines are lit, will produce more than 7.25 million kilograms of thrust, nearly double that of the NASA's Space Launch System. Elon Musk has stated that one of the goals of his company, SpaceX, is to improve the cost and reliability of access to space, ultimately by a factor of 10. Over time, these goals kept on becoming bigger, and now the achievements of the company include rockets and the largest commercial satellite constellation operator in the world. SpaceX was definitely not an overnight success, with the company's founders and investors playing an incredible role in helping to make its mark today. This California-based company has undoubtedly enhanced its credibility with the contracts it gained from various Air Force launches and NASA. Maybe that's the reason when every company was down versus the end of 2021, SpaceX stock was defying gravity. That's all for today. What do you think of Musk's wild future predictions? Tell us in the comments. And if you enjoyed this video, don't forget to share it with your friends. Also, please check out other videos on our channel as well. Thanks for watching.